Somewhere in a secure building in Karachi, behind thick walls and careful guards, Pakistan keeps its gold. And it's not a lot of gold, about 64.7 tons. And if you melt it down and turn it into a giant cube, it would fit inside a small bedroom. So at today's prices, it is worth around $10.9 billion. That sounds like a big number until you remember that the US has 8,133 tons, the Germany have 3,352, and even India has more than 820 tons. So Pakistan sits somewhere around number 45 on the world's gold list. Not too poor, not too rich, just quiet. And for many years, this was the whole story of Pakistan and the gold. A modest pile, mostly unchanged, watched carefully by the State Bank of Pakistan. If you want more headlines clearly explained along with the wars, oil, power, and politics behind them, subscribe for more videos like this. Now, if we come to the point, so every year there would be a crisis, and people would whisper that whether the country might have to sell some of that gold or pledge it to a foreign bank for a loan. Mostly, it would just sit there. But while this small pile of gold was sitting quietly in Karachi, something much bigger was waiting underground. It was far away and in a place where most people they never visited. If we travel west from Karachi, keep going past the cities, the towns, and the villages, eventually you will reach the Balochistan, Pakistan's biggest province by land and also the poorest by almost every measure. Then, if we keep going further into the Chagay Hills, it is near the border of Iran and Afghanistan. The land here is brown and cracked. There's almost no water, almost no people, and there is a small, dusty town called Reko Diq. Now, underneath its empty place, geologists discovered something amazing. The ground below Reko Diq, it contained about 5.9 billion tons of rock that carries copper and gold. So the gold alone of that part, that can actually dig up and sold for 26 million. That is roughly 12 times bigger than Pakistan's entire central bank reserves. And the copper, it is worth even more in total. If you add up everything Reko Diq is expected to produce, the number would somewhere around $74 billion in free cash flow. So $74 billion for a country whose total annual economy is about $375 billion, that one mine, it could be life-changing. But the complicated part is Pakistan has been trying and failing to get this gold out of the ground for almost 30 years, as we know. Back in 1993, a company called BHP, they signed an agreement with the Balochistan government to explore their Reko Diq. Later, the rights passed to a joint venture called Tethyan Copper Company. It is owned by a Chilean company and a Canadian company called Barrick Gold. Now, these foreign companies, they spent years studying the deposit. They spent about $220 million on exploration. By 2011, they were ready to start building the actual mine. They also applied for a mining lease, and Pakistan said no. So the reasons were complicated. Some people in the government, they argued that the original deal had been signed unfairly, and it would have little benefit for Pakistan. Some people argued the foreign companies were trying to take too much, so the application was rejected and the project was stopped there. So Tetian, they were furious. They went to an international court called ICSID. That's a World Bank body that handles disputes between countries and foreign investors. They said that Pakistan had broken its promises. So in 2019, that court, they delivered its verdict. Pakistan would have to pay Tetian $5.97 billion in damages. That's nearly $6 billion, about 2% of Pakistan's entire economy. This was actually a disaster, I would say, and Pakistan did not have $6 billion to spare. So as the country was in the middle of an IMF program trying to keep its economy from collapsing, and now it owned a Canadian mining company, they owned the money more than it had for emergency funds. So there was only one way out. Pakistan had to make a deal. In 2022, Pakistan and Barrick Gold, they sat down and designed a new agreement. The old Tethyan structure was thrown out. The $6 billion fine was cancelled. And in exchange, Pakistan agreed to let Barrick build the mine and at the same time as an equal partner. So the new ownership looks like this. Barrick Gold, they own half, the 50%, the federal government of Pakistan, and the three state-owned oil and gas companies, they own 25%. The provisional government of Balochistan, they own the other 25%. And here's the interesting part. Out of Balochistan, 25%, only 15% has to pay its share of the cost. And the other 10% is a gift what the industry called free carrot. It means the province gets the money without having to put money in. This was Barrick's and the federal government's way out of saying to the Balochistan people that we know you have been poor for too long, we know you have been angry for too long, please let us build this. The plan was set, the money started flowing, and the World Bank's private arm, the IFC, they put in $1 billion in loans. The Asia Development Bank, they added another $410 million, and the joint venture partner approved $3 billion in project financing. Pakistan state-owned companies, they started making their equity payments, about $224 million so far. So the construction crew arrived. American engineering giant Fluor took the lead on building the processing plant. A British company called the Capital Limited, they got the contract to run the mining equipment, a deal that was worth more than $60 million per year once the mine is running. So the plan was straightforward. The phase one would open in 2028. Every year, it would pull out 240,000 tons of copper, 297 tons of gold, and then in 2034, phase two would expand everything. The mine would get bigger, the yearly production would grow to 400,000 tons of copper and 500,000 tons of gold. So today's prices, that is roughly $4 billion of metal. And in phase one, and nearly $7 billion a year once the phase two kicks in. So for 37 years, like on paper, it was just perfect. But Reko Diq is not on paper. It is in Balochistan. Balochistan is the biggest province in Pakistan and also the angriest. For decades, the people of Balochistan, they have watched outsiders to take things from their land. The natural gas from Sui fields, they heated the homes in Lahore and Karachi, as we know, while many Balochi villages, they had no gas. The copper from the older Saint Dak mine, it went to China. The deep water port in Gwadar was built for international trade, not for local fishermen. So each time, the story was saying foreigners and Pakistanis, they would come from other provinces and they would take their valuable things, and the people of Balochistan, they stayed poor. And a group of Baloch separatist fighters, they have been at war with the Pakistani state on and off for decades, as we know, and they are not a huge army, but they are determined. And Reko Diq, to them, it looks like a next chapter of the old same story. In early 2026, these fighters began attacking the targets connected to the mine. The attacks were serious enough that in April 2026, Barrick did something that shocked the investors. The company announced that it was slowing down the development. Then it said that it was delaying its formal project review by a full year. This was not a small decision. When a company like Barrick, it tells its shareholders that a $10 billion project is pausing because of security problems, it means that a project is suddenly less certain. It means it will cost more. It means that 2028 start date might slip. It means that the bankers who lent the money, they start asking harder questions. The 10% free gift to Balochistan was supposed to prevent this. The idea was that if the province had money flowing from day one, the local anger would soften. For some people, it has worked, but royalists are being paid. Real jobs are being promised, 7,500 during construction, 4,000 during the 40 years of operation. But for men with the guns in the hills, no royalty is enough. They do not want a share. They want a whole question of who owns this land to be reopened. So here is where Pakistan stands today. The country has $10.9 billion of gold sitting quietly in a value. It is not much, but it is something. The country has another $74 billion of future cash flow waiting under a desert in Balochistan. So some of it is scheduled to start arriving by 2028, assuming that everything goes right. But Pakistan's share of that, through the federal SOEs and the Balochistan government together, it could be in the range of $15 to $25 billion over the full 37 years. That's after the cost and Barrick's cut. So if Reko Diq works, Pakistan's economy changes and hard currency flows in. the rupee will get stronger, and Balochistan, the poorest province that can finally has its own source of wealth. The country's dependence on IMF loans, it could be eased. The story of Pakistan and the gold stops being a quiet one and becomes a louder one. But if Reko Diq fails, the attacks will continue. If the BRICS walks away, if the costs spiral, if the politics turn sour, then Pakistan is left with half-built mine, billions of dollars of debt to the IFC, International Finance Corporation, as we know, in the Asian Development Bank, and another generation of grievance in Balochistani people. So the difference between the two futures, it does not depend on geology. The gold is there, the copper is there, the engineers are good, the money is committed. The difference depends on whether Pakistan can finally, after almost 30 years of trying, they can finally convince the people of Balochistan that this time it is different. That this time the wealth under their feet will not simply disappear into somebody else's pocket. That this time they will be partners, not the victims. That's the real question at Reko Diq. Not how much gold is in the ground, but whether Pakistan can build trust faster than it builds the mine. In 2028, we will start to find out. Subscribe for more.